probably still would go to bed most nights just hoping I would wake up and somehow a miracle would happen and it would be gone. Yeah, I think there hasn't been a day where I've not thought about Bell's palsy, diabetes and the forever sort of effects it's had on me.
Kia ora, I'm Jess Kerr and welcome to the 5th season of Treading Water. Today I'll be speaking with my sister Jess Kerr. What was a younger Jess like growing up?
Very smiley, very outgoing. From an early age, always had a passion and love for sport, and yeah, I guess grew up in a beautiful community with amazing family and friends. So yeah, as a kid, life was pretty simple and great and easygoing.
As a kid, sport was a huge part of your life, especially running. What has running taught you growing up?
Running was probably my first passion and something I really devoted everything to. I think from a young age, to have that much commitment to something. Running's a sport where it's all on you, and I was willing to do the work for that. So in that sense, it taught me a lot about hard work, pushing yourself to your absolute limit and just being consistent with something, and also how important it is to have a passion and a purpose in life, and yeah, without even probably realising it was an escape for me.
With running, you eventually had to give it up because of your injuries. Can you talk to those injuries and what they meant?
Being able to run for 90 minutes and then all of a sudden I was in pain having to run for 5 or 10 minutes. So it was such a huge shift in my day-to-day life, and running was my main passion and love, and I wanted to go far with it. So that was really quite a challenge, as I've always been grateful I've been able to do something I love, and that was probably the first time where something has stopped me from doing that. Got all the testing for Compartment syndrome, had a surgery for that which wasn't successful, then got diagnosed with Popliteal Artery Entrapment syndrome that involved getting a bit of Botox in my calves, and yeah, I was still quite keen on running but also progressing into cricket, but yeah, still to this day I struggle to go out for a run longer than 20 minutes and have had to adapt sort of a lot from when I was younger, and running every day with such ease. I probably took it for granted a bit.
At about 9 or 10 years old, you were diagnosed with Bell's palsy. Do you remember the day and what happened when the symptoms came on?
I was out with a friend going to Tawa Goes to Town, which is a school music sort of festival, and my face sort of started to tingle and droop, and I couldn't say my B's and P's properly, which is quite ironic with the condition being called Bell's palsy. Initially it did kind of feel like a joke, and I guess not knowing the seriousness of it, and they told me it would go away within 6 to 12 months. So I guess in terms of how I dealt with it, I always thought it was probably going to go away.
You're sick for a bit and you got diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at 13. Do you remember, I guess, the process to being diagnosed, and when you were diagnosed, how you first responded?
Yeah, at 13 I was very much into my running at the time, and just a normal sort of school student, juggling school and running, and yeah, living a pretty normal life. And as that year went on, I started to lose a whole heap of weight. I just started feeling so fatigued and unwell. I think I lied to mum saying I had a sore ear, just have a day off school because I was exhausted. And yeah, we went to the local medical centre and my ear was completely fine, but they did a few more tests and said you're now a type 1 diabetic and cancel out your whole week, you're heading into hospital. And yeah, I remember bursting into tears in that moment. One of my friends from school was type 1 diabetic, so I was somewhat aware of the condition, but there was still so much more I was yet to know and learn. And yeah, I guess knowing it was a forever type of condition that I'm going to have to live with, from that day onwards, my life sort of changed.
How do you find managing your type 1 diabetes today?
It's sort of become my new normal. I try and not let it define me. Every day I'm making hundreds of decisions without even realizing, and it's something where you don't get a day off at all. And I think that's the hard thing. If I forget about it for a few hours, there may or may not be consequences later. But yeah, morning and night, it's one of the first things I think of. And often I used to like delaying my starts to the day, because as soon as I was up, I had to then be a type 1 diabetic and think about things. But yeah, I guess exhausted potentially is a good word, but also I can do everything I was doing before. There's a lot more mental load behind the scenes before I get there.
After a year of your Bell's palsy not going away, being told it probably would, how did this make you feel?
Even 2 years passing, I probably still would go to bed most nights just hoping I would wake up and somehow a miracle would happen and it would be gone. And then there was also another side where I was just so grateful I could still do what I love, and my family, so incredible. So I think I sort of found a way to sort of accept it and be okay, and yeah, I guess be grateful that it hadn't taken me out of something I love. But yeah, I think there hasn't been a day where I've not thought about Bell's palsy, diabetes, and the forever sort of effects it's had on me. For so long, I couldn't really look at photos of my younger self before being diagnosed, as it just brought up so much emotion of, yeah, I guess how different my life might have been. What I was pretty bad at is stopping and realizing what I am and have gone through. It's okay that it does have a significant impact on my life, and I can be sad about things that are happening to me. And sometimes people don't realize how much you're going through until you speak up. And even though family had lived and breathed sort of all my diagnoses and my day-to-day life, I was still probably keeping a lot from them and how much it affects me. But yeah, my gosh, when you open up to people you love and seek help, it's quite overwhelming how reassured and loved I've felt. For me, community and connection has been so important, and that's not for everyone, but to lean in on those people who love you. I'm so lucky I've got a bunch of them. But yeah, it's been so valuable talking to others, being open, and you can relate so many things to other people's experiences and have those deeper conversations, which allows for greater connection. And if anything, I'm probably most proud of younger Jess. We always sort of talk about how important it is to have role models and people to look up to. And that's something I really wanted as a kid who was going through tough things, but I sort of look back to how I am now, and seeing everything I still did despite all those things happening to me as a child. I'm pretty proud of younger Jess and how she just sort of kept going and and finding a passion, even if that changed, and yeah, having an amazing community around me. I would also say to make sure when you are feeling sad and having hard days that you can sit in them, and that's okay. You don't have to be grateful all the time. A smile, something you were never taught, softening strangers arriving before we begin to talk. A smile, it lights up rooms, speaks without words, an energy we chase and long for. A smile, something you present to the world, two sides even, never questioned. It is complete. My smile, it carries a quiet grief, completely incomplete. A heaviness begins to fill. What do people think? My smile, something I had to teach, subtle, conscious changes. What could that young girl have been? My smile, it rises in its own way. Hope is fading away. Why are false promises made when all they bring is pain? My smile, something I will always question. It is not quite what I imagined. Forever grateful for the connections. It is my home. I will keep learning to accept it.